Stations. It's time for Wallow and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here's your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome into New York City. The Tigers' first of two games in the Big Apple here in Brooklyn. And the line just came out. I saw the Tigers are 2.5-point favorites, although I saw the ESPN statistical crew gave Virginia Tech a 56% chance of winning. So this game should be interesting tonight, and the Tigers have a real opportunity to get national respectability. This is the holiday season, correct? In the holiday season, we always gaze toward the heavens. We look for miracles. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, after what I saw last night, I know miracles can happen. You say, what happened, Willow? What changed your life? It didn't really change my life, but it showed me anything can happen because the College Football Playoff Committee has voted Cincinnati into the number 4 spot. And they also put Houston in the number 24 spot, which means that there will be a significant game in the championship game that will help the resume of Cincinnati. I don't know that they're totally in yet, but it sure looks pretty darn good.
It's the season of giving, Dave.
It's the season of miracles, man. I am just thankful on this Thanksgiving Day to see that for the first time, a non-Power 5 team, a team representing the American and the Group of Five, has been included in this playoff. Now watch Houston wins, and that'll be the end of all that, but we'll see. It should be a lot of fun. This is rivalry week. We got the Egg Bowl, and who better than to talk about the Egg Bowl than Brett Norsworthy, who will be a part of the Ole Miss broadcast on Turkey Day, and Stats will join us here in just a little bit. The Iron Bowl, Bedlam, we got Michigan, Ohio State. What a great weekend it's going to be. What a great holiday it's going to be. And it starts actually tonight with Memphis and Virginia Tech. As far as happiness goes, it might have begun because I saw it for the first time last night on the Gonzaga-UCLA game, how Nike is now latching on to what we think will be the new superstar in the NBA. It's Ja. And the ad, if you haven't seen it, the campaign is going to be, says who? Who says you can't jump as high forever? Who says a little town team can't win a title? Says who? It's fun. What was your first impression, John, when you saw it? Jay Morgan, when you saw it?
I'll go by John. He's a much better athlete than I am, so I like that. But I was impressed by it. I mean, it kind of I saw it. I can't take credit for this take because I saw it on Twitter, but it's kind of reminiscent of the old Lil Penny ad, so it has a Memphis tie to it. That's really cool. It was just an awesome commercial. I mean, it's just cool to see a player that plays in your hometown showcased like that. And I think I said to you just a minute ago, he's certainly a unique player. No one that deserves him more.
Well, it is very clear that they have now recognized that this guy, and good for him because he's going to make a ton of money. When you get your own campaign, that means you're making some pretty good bread. And it tells you that Nike has recognized Ja, like we have for a while now, that Ja's special and that he's going to become the superstar that this franchise has never had. And this franchise has had really, really good players. We've had all NBA players in Gasol, Defensive Player of the Year. We've had Rookie of the Year in Pau Gasol. We had a guy that was a poster child for being a good guy in Shane Battier, and I think he got some national pub along the way. I think Rudy Gay to this day, until Ja, was the best one-on-one creator that the Grizzlies have ever had. So they've had great players. Right. They have the great, grit and grind story with Tony Allen, and I think probably the best overall player, Zach Randolph, in the history of the franchise until this guy. And this guy clearly is going to be that superstar. And I'm happy for him because There is one thing, and I don't know if it's really touched upon, because when I watched the ad, I don't think that was his dad who says the first thing, but his dad could be in the ad, his kid could be in the ad. I mean, he's a family guy. So there's so many good things that you can point out, and you are seeing scenes, as you mentioned, of Memphis. And so it's great pub, not only for Ja, but for the city. And that is a cool thing. It is the first one like that you're on. I think we can call him a superstar right now.
I think
it's there.
Maybe so. And I don't know what's next for him. The signature shoe, I'm interested to see kind of what's next. This is clearly a Nike deal, so I would imagine more merchandising to come for Nike and Ja.
Right. So this is the way the college football playoff poll went. Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan is 5. So the Michigan-Ohio State winner is going to probably get in unless something happened to one of those teams in the Big Ten championship game, and I can't imagine that it would. Notre Dame is 6. I'm not sure there's a way in for them. Oklahoma State is 7, Baylor 8, Ole Miss 9, and Oklahoma is 10. Of course, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play this week. Bedlam is this week.
Right.
I don't see a route in for really any of those guys. I think Michigan and Ohio State is going to eliminate one of them. Georgia, and I can't see Alabama not getting in now. Maybe Notre Dame is sitting in the shadows in case one of those Big Ten teams lost in the championship, or if Alabama lost badly to Georgia. But as this thing shapes up, if Cincinnati wins against East Carolina, and East Carolina has become a better team in the last few weeks, no question about that. And then Houston, and Houston will give them a game in the championship game. They're playing Connecticut. There's no way they're going to lose. Then I think Cincinnati wins their 2 games. It's a hard scenario to see them out, but we'll figure all that out a little bit later with Brett Norsworthy. So that should be, I think, a lot of fun. Here's the other deal from yesterday when it comes to college football. James Franklin staying put, which means that he is not going to get one of the jobs that is out there. He's not going to join USC. He's not going to join Florida. He's not going to join LSU. He's not going to join Washington, Virginia Tech, TCU. So all those really brand name jobs are still going to remain. He's staying there. Cost him some money. The base for 10 years is $7.5 million. So that's $75 million. If you look at all the incentives that are built into that, I'm thinking he can make probably about $9 million if he were to win a national championship. So he's set, and he's not going anywhere for a while. The buyout that he had to sign would make that prohibitive, especially in the first few years. But the one that really surprised me the most was Hugh Freeze staying at Liberty. And it's not that he's staying at Liberty, because I think Hugh might have had a chance at a school like Virginia Tech. I don't know if he was getting bad news on the feelers, or if Liberty just decided we're going to hook ourselves up to this star and we're going to ride with him. They're giving him $4 million, really over $4 million a year, and that is a 4-year deal, or a 7-year deal, through 28. So that's like about a $30 million deal. And in thinking about it, and I certainly would tell you first to attest, there's no question, Hugh Freeze is one darn good coach. I don't care if it's girls basketball or football or any sport that he coached, he would win at. He's that good. But I don't understand how Liberty can ever recoup that kind of money. They don't draw. They don't have a TV deal. It's a smaller school. Now, it's a endowed school. There's a lot of money there, so they can afford it, but there's no way they ever recoup it. So what's the real reason for them, where they are, to try and make a big splash? It makes sense at a school like Alabama to put out the money they did for Nick Saban, because Nick Saban brought up admissions, it brought up the quality of the education, because there were so many people trying to get in. They could raise their standards on academics. There's a lot of different reasons giving that made a lot of sense. But is there going to be at this religious school, is there going to be a real reason to give more because Hugh Freeze is your football coach? I'm not even saying it's wrong. I just don't quite understand why a school makes that kind of commitment in football when there's no chance whatsoever through any financial stream that I can think of. And if I'm wrong, let me know. But I don't quite see how they ever recoup that money. But they'll win. I do give them that. They will continue to win. He's already. I mean, this has been kind of a bad year for them, but he's already taken them to places they had never ever been before. College basketball. I'll touch on that real quick. Cincinnati is an interesting story, and I bring them up first.
How about Cincinnati?
I bring them up because they beat Illinois by 20, right? Then last night they lost to Arkansas. Did you see any of that game?
Oh, yeah. Hey, I didn't see the end of it, but I did see the highlights this morning.
Well, I watched the end of it. And they lost that game 73-67. That was a game they led most of the way. The reason they lost that game to Arkansas is because they could not keep them off the offensive glass. They got killed on the boards. I think second half alone, it was 10-3. And I'm going to tell you in the last 2 or 3 possessions, most of those 10 offensive rebounds came. That is how they stayed ahead, and then Cincinnati had a foul. But Cincinnati is so much better. This coach that they have, young kid.
Wes Miller.
Wes Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, he's, first of all, he looks like he's 20.
Yeah.
He is intense. He's got sort of the I'm trying to think of who his intensity level is, but he's got the stare and he's pacing and they respond to him. This is made up of much of the same guys they had last year where they floundered. And I was really impressed with them to beat Illinois by 20 and then to, Arkansas, what are they, 13th in the country?
Yeah.
They had Arkansas's number. If they could have kept them off the boards, they would have won that game. So I'm thinking that the American Athletic Conference, Jay Morgan, is going to be pretty good. Houston beat Butler. They lost to Wisconsin. And this was so weird. They lose to Wisconsin. They're down 2. They get the last shot. They bring the ball down, and a kid penetrates. And instead of taking the shot, which he could have, he goes and makes the extra pass, which would have been a layup, but he didn't keep track of the clock. So the clock ran out. It expired before they got a shot off that would have tied the game. They weren't even going for the win. They were going for the tie. And Kelvin Sampson screaming, shoot, shoot, and they didn't do it. And so they lose by 2 to a Wisconsin team. But, Memphis and Houston, now you got to put Cincinnati in this mix because I think they're going to be pretty good. Wichita State is a team that won the conference championship last year. I saw Tyson Etienne hit a shot from about 38 feet the other night to win a game. He's doing his clutch thing. UCF is 4-0. This league, Jay Morgan, I don't know yet for sure. We're going to have to wait and see. But it seems like it is better, more competitive than it was a year ago when really it was Houston and then Memphis at the end was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't speak to exactly how many tournament teams that equals or anything like that, but it's certainly a more competitive league than I anticipated. SMU's another team that's a top 100 team in the country. Going back to Cincinnati, though, just a stat that jumps off the page for me there. First of all, they have a top 50 defense in the country, but teams are shooting under 37% from the field against Cincinnati this year. And like you said, that includes games against Georgia, that includes games against Illinois, and last night's game against Arkansas. They're a great defensive team. Teams shoot under 24% against them from 3. So a really good defensive team. And Wes Miller, he used to coach at UNC Greensboro. He had a top 100 team there for a couple years. Cincinnati's pretty good. I'm excited to see them play the Tigers later this year for sure.
I am too, and you're going to get a home and home, and that'll be a lot of fun. I want games that are competitive. Obviously, if Memphis were to win these 2 games here, you got Virginia Tech, which is basically ranked 27th and also receiving votes, and then Xavier, which got into the AP poll at 25. I think in the coaches poll they're 30. But if you get those 2 on neutrals, those are quad 1 wins, I think Memphis could walk away number 5 in the country from this weekend. But you got to win those games. And you mentioned the shooting percentage stat, which I think is spot on, especially for the Hokies. For whatever reason, the Hokies this year get off to incredibly slow starts. In the last 2 games, in the first half, they have shot 38% or worse. And that's from the field. So they're notorious slow starters. Memphis has been a pretty good starting team. And so that would go a long way. Of course, you can't turn the ball over 26 times. Right. Also, Memphis is one of the top pace teams in the country, and the Hokies like it real slow. So that'll be kind of fun to watch. The Landers-Nolly story will be fun to watch. This is his old team, right? I mean, he was freshman of the year, and then in came this new coach, and he didn't like this new coach, and that's why he left after his sophomore year. So I just hope he doesn't try to do too much. We just saw that the other day, a week ago, basically, when Jordan Nesbitt came to FedEx Forum, former Tiger, now with St. Louis, and tried to do way too much and missed his first 13 shots. I hope that is not the case with Landers. And I don't think it'll be, because Landers has really matured a whole bunch. And I've been hearing some stuff from NBA scouts that are saying they're starting to look at Landers-Nolly with a more serious approach, because he's doing a lot more than just being a spot-up shooter. He is driving, he is defending, he's rebounding, he's doing a lot of different facets that he didn't necessarily do at the beginning of last year. So he's going to go a long way tonight, especially if he keeps his ambition, let me say, in check. That'll be kind of fun. And then now there's the rotation. What are you going to do?
Man.
Are you going to start Alo? Or are you going to start maybe Quinones in that position, although he's not done very well? Are you going to let Timberlake have more minutes and be part of the rotation? This will be interesting, and it'll be the first time we really get the feel for how Penny and Larry Brown and Cody Topper and Rasheed Wallace are going to play this thing this year. We'll get our first look when they take on their former Metro foe. And I can remember, what was his name? Charles Moyer, who was the coach there for a long time, and that crazy arena with the steepest sight lines I've ever seen in a ballpark. Those were really good days, those Metro days. That was my favorite of all the conferences that Memphis was in.
What a great league that would be now, too.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you realize that league would have been a great football league.
Oh, yeah, for
Virginia
sure.
Tech in that league, South Carolina, although they're not very good, obviously, but South Carolina was in that league, Florida State was in that league, Louisville, Cincinnati, Memphis, throw in Southern Miss. They were but they were good in those days with MK Turk in basketball. And the guy that was there forever as a football coach, good coach. That was just it would have been a great football league, but Florida State and Virginia Tech didn't really want to play football in a conference at that point. And that really was what did in that deal, which is a shame, because it as you said, it would have been outstanding. If you were Penny Hardaway, Jay Morgan, because you are a former assistant basketball coach.
That's right.
What would your starting lineup and what would your 3 next players be for the University of Memphis?
That's actually a tough question. I'm not sure. You're putting me on the spot a little bit. I mean, Bates and Duren, no doubt about that. I guess you got to go with what's 12's name? Williams.
DeAndre Williams.
DeAndre Williams. Why not?
Well, let me help you out here just a little bit. I think it's pretty clear, if we're really being honest about it all, the 5 best players on this team, and he likes to play positionless basketball, right? The 5 best players on this team are the 3 returners that were instrumental in the NIT run, and that is Nolly, who was all conference. That was DeAndre Williams, who was like second on the team in scoring, rebounds, and assists. That's how good he was last year down the stretch when he doesn't get into foul trouble. That's key tonight. He's got to stay. I mean, he's gotten like 2 fouls in the first 5 to 7 minutes of every game. He's got to stay on the floor. And Lester Quinones, who was the glue and the best perimeter defender the team had 1 year ago. So those 3 guys are your best guys coming back. And now you get your 2 studs that are, going to be NBA stars, and that's Duren, who's the only guy in the country at this point that is averaging 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 4.5 blocks a game. He's the only guy, singular, in the country at this point in this early season. So he's critical. And then you got Amani Bates, who we all know is going to be he's the next, if you go by Sports Illustrated, when he was 14, he's the next Kevin Durant. We'll see how all that pans out. And he didn't have a good game against Western Kentucky.
Huge
but
bounce
up
back
until
night.
then, he was spectacular. So those are your top 5 guys. Do you start all 5 of those? You could. Or you could start Alo, and you got somebody like Nolly who's been coming off the bench. Then Timberlake was supposed to be a one-and-done guy last year. He's been injured. He just is coming off his best game where he was not included in the rotation. So he probably needs to be in the mix. Josh Minot is a guy who clearly needs to be in the mix because he's another one of those freshmen that I think is a can't-miss guy. Those are your 8 best players, I believe, at this point.
No Tyler.
Well, he would be the next guy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he would probably be the next guy. Chandler Lawson is a post player that you might, if you got some foul problems, that you might come in to defend and rebound. So he's a guy that could be, usable. I would probably use him as an option over Malcolm Dandridge because other than the Lemoyne Owen game, Malcolm Dandridge really hasn't done much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not. It would be tough to say the rotation for sure. I'm actually interested to see how if they dial the press back at all against a really good team like Virginia Tech. Better teams tend to be better at breaking that kind of pressure, and they have a lot of trapping areas Memphis does in the half court too. And I'm interested to see a top 25 team or top 30 team or whatever how they attack that. So this will be a great game. I'm just excited for Thanksgiving week basketball.
Well, one reason they might want the press is just to hurry them too, because they want to play slow, and it's not just for turnover's sake, but it is to change the pace to get it to be more your style. So you're right; it'll be really, really interesting to see. We've moved the Family Leisure Studio, at least for the moment, to Brooklyn. And I got to remind you, the Christmas sale is going on. There is all kind of opportunities for you with game room stuff still, like air hockey and shuffleboard, and of course, the finest pool table selection in all of the city of Memphis. And with the Christmas sale going on right now at I-40 and Whidden Road, you will find great opportunities. There's free delivery on the in-stock items still going on. And you need to get that game room right for all your friends coming over for the holidays. Take advantage of the Christmas sale going on right now at Family Leisure. And this portion of the show brought to you by my friend Sheldon. I know he's going to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. His wife usually comes on these basketball tournament trips with her girlfriends. She didn't come this time because she wanted to spend some Thanksgiving time with Sheldon. And I don't blame her because she never sees Sheldon. You know why she never sees Sheldon? Because he's always working. I promise you. He writes down 24/7, 365. That's what he lives by. And that's why he's such a terrible golfer, as he likes to brag about, because he's always working. He's got a strategic marketing strategy at work. There's Shellbucks. He prices your house correctly. He knows how to get it on the market, and your house always seems to move. If you want to see it, go to MemphisRelocate.com and then give Sheldon a call. He's always by his phone. 483-0546. 483-0546. Sheldon always gets it done. He always moves your house. All you got to do is make that call. 483-0546. Brett Norsworthy joining us in a minute. We talk Egg Bowl and coaching changes. Oh, and our thoughts and prayers with the Cecil Hurt family, the long-time sports columnist and editor of the Tuscaloosa News, and I know Brett knows him. We'll chat about that. All coming your way in just a minute.
Hi, everyone. This is Greg Gaston. After 16-plus years coming to you during the midday hours, Eli Savoy and I have moved to the morning drive. You can join us weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. for the all-new Sports 56 mornings, only on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Get your gun, Nelly, and saddle up Penelope. It's Western Trading Days at Sunrise Buick GMC. Old-time trading prices on all new Buicks and GMCs, and the Sunrise Used Car Corral has over 150 in stock. Sunrise has rustled up a good-looking herd of cars and trucks under $99.95. Ranch managers have been told to cut prices to the bone. If you're a good person with bad credit, SunriseMemphis.com will help put your brand on one of these fillies. Come on in and save some money during Western Trading Days at Sunrise, Covington Pike, Wolf Chase, and Collierville. Cars costless at Sunrise, partner.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I'm Brian Elder, 867-0303. Hurricane season is upon us. Is your roof ready? Are your shingles laying down and sealed properly? Call me right now, 867-0303. They say you get what you pay for. That's why my opinion is free. Maybe you've got years of life left in your roof. If so, I'll tell you that. But if I find storm damage or a compromised roof system, I'll lay out some options for you. Don't let them tell you it needs to be replaced if it only needs a repair. Call me, 867-0303. Has your insurance company already seen it and rejected your claim? Maybe they're correct. Most of the time, they're not. They do tend to become more reasonable once I get involved, though. 867-0303. I'll measure your roof from outer space or BrianElderRoofing.com.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
Tire pressure light on? Tread low? Car sliding when you stop? It's time to go down to Milton on the Spot. Serving you at 3 locations: 1684 Getwell Road, 2127 Ellis Presley, and 3691 North Watkins. Memphis' largest supply of new and used tires, all under warranty. Yes, that's warranty on used tires too. Ask about the tire rotation and balance specials. Milton on the Spot on Getwell Road, Elvis Presley, or North Watkins. Here to take care of your every tire need. Milton on the Spot.
Action247.com is your Tennessee sportsbook for same-day pay. Action247.com. Local, legal. A sportsbook by Tennesseans, for Tennesseans. Win a little or win a lot. Action247 has same-day pay. The other guys make you wait for your winnings. No more waiting with Action247 same-day pay. Visit us online at Action247.com. Local, legal. Action247. You got action.
Problem gambling? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again, it's the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Brett Norsworthy coming your way in a minute. He's brought to you by Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and the big repair bill buyback. If you've got an energy guzzler, you think it's on its last leg and worth nothing, John will buy back repairs up to $1,500 if you decide to take that money toward the purchase of brand new state-of-the-art technology, the Select Carrier Infinity system. $1,500 on a repair, even if Conway didn't do it. Just show a receipt. Or look, if you didn't have a repair bill, but you know it's time to pull the plug, he'll give you $1,500 on a trade-in if you put it toward the Carrier Infinity system. That is a heck of a deal. And in the end, think about it. When air conditioning systems get older, they're inefficient, the cost of the repairs, higher utility costs, it pays for itself to get the new system. It really does. And with that $1,500 back right now, it's the perfect time to call John. That's 901-384-3511, Conway Services. Well, he's busy getting ready for the Egg Bowl. Can't wait for that game. There's so much meaning to it. It's going to be one of those classic games. Brett Norsworthy joins us now. Stats. Let's, though, start with Cecil Hurd, who passed away at the age of 62 yesterday. An institution in Tuscaloosa. I think he started there like 82, and then 7 years later, 89, he was the guy that became the editor and the sports columnist, and he's been must-read ever since. It's a sad day for his family. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Dave. It sure is. And news broke yesterday. Cecil really been scuffling, battling with health issues. Back to last year, not COVID-related, a lot of issues. And I got to see him at the Ole Miss-Alabama game back in early October, and he was really struggling then. And he did have the long depth and breadth of a wonderful career and a lot of friends, and you just hardly would ever hear anybody say anything bad about him. He was the definitive go-to source for Alabama. He had a great relationship with every Alabama coach, from Coach Bryant to Coach Saban and all points in between. And that is remarkable to be able, as a young man, to cover the Bear, and then as the longtime veteran reporter, to be able to cover Coach Nick Saban. And that's the two best college coaches in the history of the sport. And he got to cover right there from the front row, and he did it with such grace and aplomb. A lot of times when I would see Cecil at SEC basketball tournament, he would seem almost bored by basketball. He wasn't, but he would tell you, Tuscaloosa is the ultimate football town, and Alabama's the ultimate football school.
You're so right. To have been able to cover as intimately as he did those two programs, and probably 1-2 in the history of college football's coaching. I guess you got to throw in some Notre Dame stuff like Frank Leahy and Ara Parseghian, and you got to throw in some USC guys here and there. But for the most part, those are the two guys in the two dynasties, and to have that seat, that would be an amazing career. I really feel for his family on this Thanksgiving. Okay, here comes the Egg Bowl, and two coaches that I think like each other, that are both charismatic in their own different ways, and two really good football teams that will that are going to meet up like they do every year for Egg Bowl.
Yeah, they do like each other a lot, and they both have turned down the volume. And as so many younger fans love to say, the toxicity of the Egg Bowl. I love telling them it's always been toxic. It's just new people doing it, and they weren't around for the old toxic. But whatever, the Twitter, Instagram crowd, they're very into themselves and think that they're the first people that ever existed on planet Earth. But it's always been great. But they have turned it down. You give them another week, they'll make you think this is going to be Rose-Hulman against Carnegie. I mean, they both have gone out of their way. I think Mike Leach said the Apple Cup was bigger. That this reminded him more of Texas Tech and Texas A&M. And Lane Kiffin is very much that pro mindset. That's his term of 1 week to the next. And he said, it's a fallacy, or it's goofy to think that you practice harder or work more for one game than you do for the other one. You have to get ready for all of them. There are 12 tests, 8 of them SEC tests. But I think when we get to the stadium tomorrow night and the enthusiasm and the crowd ramps up, they both get it. They both have tamped it down, but I think they're both playing a little bit of rope-a-dope.
What do you think happens in this game? Because Will Rogers is going to try to match Matt Corral, not necessarily running, but certainly throwing.
Will Rogers will, and for the last few people nationally that don't know about Will Rogers, they're going to know about him after tomorrow night, because he's something else. Only 2 incompletions in the second half against Auburn, at Auburn, against I think a good Auburn defense. Auburn hadn't done very much since they played real well against Ole Miss on October 30th. But Will Rogers last week against Tennessee State, he wasn't in there much, but the Auburn game really showed the world how good he is. You know how good he is. You saw him back in September against the Tigers. And to go back there and throw as many times as he does, I think 67 against the Tigers, and it's something in the 60s just every time for attempts. And he's got a wide receiver in Mekhi Pope with 88 receptions. Dave, we've seen great Mississippi State receivers through the years, late 70s. A guy like Marty McDowell in the 90s, a guy like Eric Moles. They barely had 88 catches for a career. I think they both eventually got over 100 for a career. But they got one guy with 88 for a season. It goes 4 or 5 or 6 deep. But I think the difference in the game will be Ole Miss can run. I think they can run the ball. State's got a good defensive line, too. But I think if Ole Miss can run the ball, dare I say maybe slow it down a little bit on offense, rest your defensive guys, and try to play a little. I'm not talking 1975 ground and pound possession type, but a little bit with Connor, Ely, and with Matt Corral running, and it'll be the healthiest Matt has been really since the Tennessee game when he coded it 30 times.
I think you got to slow it down with them. You got to keep Will Rogers off the field, because what's crazy about their system is it is pass happy, but it's really like extended running plays. That's really all it is. So they're going to have a lot of time of possession. And you got to try to keep them off. That kid, you mentioned all those completions against Auburn. He had like 17 in a row. He never throws picks. He's so aware of what the defense is doing. I think it's just going to be a spectacular game. I was a little surprised to see State was initially favored in this game. I'm sure it's all because it's in Starkville, but I think it is going to be a fabulous football game. I want to pick your brain for just a second.
Starting Sunday night was Ole Miss favored, and then it flipped around to the home team being favored, but it's basically a pick 'em. Pick the winner.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you about the news yesterday in the coaching ranks. James Franklin staying. Are you surprised at that? He certainly got paid, and Penn State is really making a commitment to James Franklin.
Well, they are the same commitment that Michigan State is making to Mel Tucker, both with big fat 10-year deals, and they both are. Or no, it doesn't surprise me, David, because we know dislodging an established coach is really hard. It's what makes it even more remarkable that Scott Woodward, with his relationship with Jimbo Fisher, was able to do that a few years ago from FSU to Texas A&M, and that's why. All the conversation about Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma to go to LSU, I about have to see that to believe it. But, it leaves Florida, LSU, and USC open. I think LSU is the best job of those three. Their last three head coaches have won national championships, and two of them can't coach at all, in Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. I think that is the place where you win because it is the sole focus. They are the team. The only thing close to them in that state is on Sunday, and that's the New Orleans Saints. And at USC, I'm scared of the lessening of importance of high school football in the state of California impacting USC and the traditional great powers, high school powers that state's had. And then you get to Florida, and you've got Mike Norvell, I think, starting to finally build something in year two. Got to be fair and give him time, and we'll wait and see if Miami makes a change with Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz cannot afford to lose to Duke because it's close anyway with the power brokers at the U, whether he beats Duke or not.
And you mentioned the powers on the West Coast. Washington's still open. Virginia Tech now is still open. TCU still open. And the Virginia Tech job in particular brings me to my next coach, one that you know very well, and that is Hugh Freeze. And I think you and I are both in agreement. Hugh Freeze can win at any sport. I don't care if it's girls basketball. He proves that. He can. And he clearly can win at any different level that he's been at when it comes to college football. Here's my thing. He's getting $4 million, really over that, for the next 7 years at Liberty. And Liberty probably can afford it. I mean, they're a well-endowed school. But when James Franklin makes that kind of money at Penn State, they can afford it. They really need it to keep their brand up because that brings in so many resources. I don't see the resources that Liberty will get from keeping, except for winning. That's a great resource, but it's not a financial revenue stream. They don't draw 90,000 to 100,000 like Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and they're already peak when it comes to academic admissions, whereas you saw Saban was so worth it because they got so many more students and then to the point where they had to raise academics. So academically, they became a better school because of Nick Saban and that popularity. That's not going to happen at Liberty. They're never going to recoup that $30 million to giving away. And so I really am baffled by why Liberty is doing that. And I'm not saying it's a bad move. It's just, to me, a puzzling move why you would pay that much money with no chance of ever recouping your cash.
Well, it is puzzling on the face of it, comparing it economically to those other big brands. Like you mentioned Penn State, you mentioned Coach Nick Saban, who I say has been underpaid at Alabama for what he's brought in to those coffers. And when you drive through Tuscaloosa now, it's just new building, new dorm, new classroom building, new this, everywhere, apart from athletics, just what he's done academically. But here's one thing that Liberty can do that those other places can't do. Brother Jerry can send that offering plate around a couple of times and have them fill it up with a love offering for Hugh Freeze.
Well, maybe it does come in that way. They've already been getting that plate's been passed for other reasons, religious, academic, and so that plate's going to still be full. They're still going to go around because they've got that part down. But does Hugh Freeze bring in more? That maybe that's the argument, because it certainly seems. And again, I'm not criticizing it, but just it seems to me that is a lost leader for sure.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing it either. I'm just saying that no, it's not the traditional. He's not going to make the money for him the traditional way, but the image of being a football player, being in the sport. I didn't think Liberty was that good. I thought the quarterback I think he's massively overrated. If NFL teams are wanting to draft Malik Willis, number one, or in the first round, wait till this time next year and when they can get Will Rogers. If they love him, they'll really love Will Rogers. This year at Ole Miss, I think I've seen at least 7, if not 8 quarterbacks better than the highly touted quarterback at Liberty. But they've signed up with Hugh Freeze. His name wasn't rumored anywhere. He was in no mix anywhere else. Maybe he's that happy. I hope he is.
All right. Before I run out of time here, I got to ask you. I opened the show like saying miracles can happen, but how about Cincinnati getting into that 4 spot? And, with Ohio State now number 2, Michigan, Ohio State, whoever wins that game is in. The other one's not going to be in. Notre Dame's looking on the outside, but remember Cincinnati beat them there. I think Cincinnati, with Houston being a top 24 team, if they win against East Carolina and Houston, I think they're really going to get in. Am I crazy?
No, you're not, Dave. I don't think, and I don't mean to be argumentative, but I don't think it's a miracle. I think they've earned it. They had to do it over the long haul of 2 years, where everybody else is really just judged by one. But I think last year's great season is factoring in for Luke Fickell's team, and they're in. If they win against East Carolina, that I don't think will be an easy game, and then they win against Houston, that I don't think will be an easy game, they're definitely in, and I'm not so sure they're even the 4. I think they might move to 3. But Notre Dame, and I know our whole lives, they're never out of it until they're out of it. They've got one easy game left against Stanford, and maybe one of the quieter 11-1 seasons in Notre Dame football history.
Wow. Great stuff. As always, I wish you the happiest of Thanksgiving. I know you have a knockout broadcast. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the holiday. And we'll talk again next week. I'll see you next Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you, Dave. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and go Tigers in New York. Egg Bowl on Thursday, Iron Bowl on Saturday for me. Have a great one.
Man, you're a busy but a happy guy. That is for sure. That is Brett Norsworthy. Speaking of making everybody happy, you want to be the hit at your Thanksgiving? Bring them Dinstall. Still time to get there today. They got chocolate turkeys and things like that. You got 5 locations now. You got the original. That's where they make the candy on Pleasant View. You got one in Laurelwood by me. You've got one in Collierville, one in Germantown. Now they got one open all the time downtown. It is where sort of close to where the whole thing began 120 plus years ago. Dinstall's chocolate, that's always a winner. I love the Cashew Crunch. I think that's their signature. Memphis Magazine just did a big story on Cashew Crunch and Becky Dinstall. Great stuff. If you get a chance, go read that. I love the Turtlettes. Of course, they don't have the strawberries now, but they've got caramel apples. They've got everything you want to make your holiday Thanksgiving dinner fantastic. And you still got time to go today to any of those locations of Dinstall's. Back in a minute, we'll end our sort of pre-holiday week with Jarvis Greer from Action News 5. He is right around the corner.
You have opinions?
The knowledge that I have matters.
We want to hear them. Call or text us on the AutoZone listener line at 360-8255. That's the AutoZone listener line at 901-360-8255.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Testing. Hey, can you hear me? You can? Well, if you enjoy hunting or shooting, how important is your hearing? If your kids hunt and shoot, how can you protect their hearing? Well, the guys at Tactical Guns and Gear in Collierville can get you set up with a silencer for your rifle, handgun, even your shotgun. I promise they'll get you on your way to a much more enjoyable shooting experience. They have more silencers in stock than you'll find anywhere, and so much more, all in one stop. Save your hearing while you still can. Tactical Guns and Gear, Highway 72 in Collierville. Can you hear me now?
For years, I have talked to you about James Davis, the finest men's store in all of Memphis, the service, the selection, everything that goes with quality. And I've told you recently about the Stant Perfect Fit shirts. Well, now there's the Stant Perfect Fit pants. Absolutely amazing. Only 2 measurements fed into a computer, and all of a sudden, you've got the perfect fit pants. I'm talking everywhere. The leg, the seat, the bottom, all made to fit your body absolutely perfectly. And there's 80 different fabrics to choose from. You will find the right look, the right fit, almost instantaneously. They start at $162, but you will never find a better pair of pants than these at James Davis Men's Store. And the shirts are still there, and guess what? It's the only place in Memphis that you can find Stant. That's the James Davis Men's Store in the Laurelwood Shopping Center.
'Twas the season of cheer, and joy filled the town, except for Scrooge with his perma-frown. The gift of a Peloton bike touched his soul without doubt. When your workout's a joy, it's a joy to work out. This Black Friday, get the original Peloton bike at our best holiday price ever, $1,495. All access membership separate. Terms apply. See website for details.
Hey friends, Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers, and this year we're celebrating our 36th Christmas. And in those 36 years, we've learned what Memphis women want in jewelry. From the most talented jewelers and designers in this country and abroad, we've gathered a stunning collection of the finest jewelry in the Mid-South. Diamonds and rubies, emeralds and sapphires, any gemstone you can imagine, all set in a magnificent array of rings and bracelets, necklaces and earrings. There's stunning pieces that will tell your lady that you care enough to give her the very best. We have a large selection of estate and vintage jewelry if that suits her fancy. Or if she's more contemporary, come and see our collection of avant-garde, trend-setting eye-catchers. This Christmas, put a Russell Brothers box under the tree, and when she opens that box, she's going to be thrilled, and you're going to be a hero. Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins. Let us help you be the best Santa.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again, it's the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Jarvo in a second, brought to you by Old Dominick. That's the hometown partner of the Tigers, and it is a unique place. Right in the heart of downtown, Old Dominick will give you distillery tours, curated tastings, craft cocktails in their bar. They're just neat. It is a Memphis favorite. It really is. People have now learned, this tour is unique. Go to olddominick.com and you can find out the hours and availabilities. It's 45 minutes. You'll learn the history of the distillery. You'll learn about the craft from basically grain to glass, and it's an art form. And then it ends with a nice little tasting of that Old Dominick portfolio. You'll love it. And then late night, if you're looking for something a little different, you can go see the mixologist at the bar. It is elegant, not stuffy. It's a cool place. The whole thing is unique, and it's all Memphis. That is Old Dominick Distillery, right there on Front Street, 305 South Front Street. Happy Thanksgiving to my friend Jarvis Greer. I'm going to start instead of football. We'll get into that and maybe some hoops. But I got to start with, because I hadn't mentioned it yet, 901 FC. And being the dad of a pro football, soccer player.
A footballer, yeah.
Footballer,
right.
Exactly.
He actually played
Kyle
in the league.
Murphy, the goal scorer. Mark Segbers, the terrific defender, so steady. Both made second team All-USL championship. And guess what? No Memphis 901 FCer had ever gotten that honor. This was truly a great year for 901 FC.
Oh, it was a fantastic season. They had 50 points on the season. It's the most they've ever scored. They make the playoffs for the first time in their 3-year existence, and they had a good run at AutoZone Park, especially down there toward the end when they made a really strong push to get in the playoffs. And Kyle Murphy, he was good for at least a goal a game and 2 goals a game in like the last 4 or 5 matches. And then Mark Segbers had, he even got pressed into playing emergency goalie duty when. Their original goalie went down with an Achilles injury, and they had, they didn't have another one ready to go, and so Segbers had to jump in and goal and made 2 saves in the match against Atlanta United 2 that they won. So, and plus he scored a couple of goals, had several assists on the year, and they were just a solid club, and they were a fun team to watch because they attacked and they played a good brand of soccer, and I think the future's really bright. If they can keep these guys here, I think they can keep things rolling. Ben Pierman, I think, got Coach of the Month there in either
down the stretch, one of those months down the stretch. And so they've made good decisions with their players, and the coaching staff is strong. And if they can keep them together, look for them to have another good, strong run next season.
Oh, that's another guy they got to keep too, for sure. Pierman, yeah. I'm certainly he's like one of the least paid, and he's going to be sought after. So, 901 FC. I hope the crowds come back like they were initially. It was not the same. I'm not saying it was horrible, but it was not the same last year as it was before COVID hit us. But what a year on the season for Ben Pierman and 901 FC. Now, there is absolutely a very important football game that takes place Saturday, 6:30 at the Liberty Bowl. Memphis and Tulane. Tulane has been a thorn in Memphis' sides the last few years, really more in New Orleans than at the Liberty Bowl. They've had the Green Wave number there, and they'll need to have that number in order to become bowl eligible. Ryan Silverfield, rightfully so, said that is the minimum standard to be 500 and to go to a bowl. And if they didn't, there will be a lot of heat, I would suspect, on Ryan, whether that's merited or not. That's just sort of the nature of the game, and the commercial appeals already put the pressure on him with a story that basically says just that.
Well, it's amazing when you look at it, the fact that this was supposed to be a transition year, right? You lost your quarterback, who was everything, and Brady White, who set all the records at Memphis, and you lost some other people in the offensive line, and defensively you had most everybody back, but it was supposed to be a transition year. People were saying, "Oh yeah, 8 wins. They should do 8 wins." And if you look at it, everything's starting out good, but as the season went along, when you lose your top running back, who was among the nation's leaders through the first 4 games of the season, and then he doesn't play anymore, basically, that's a big hole out of your attack. And the numbers, the Tigers' offensive numbers have gone down since, Brandon Thomas basically went out. And he's got concussion issues, and then he had an ankle injury. And the first time he went out was because he had fumbled in a couple of games, and he wasn't really known as a fumbler. But I think it affected him, more than just, physically. And, when you lose that, your ability to run the ball, which they were running the ball pretty good at the start of the year. I mean, he had more than 600 yards rushing. Boom. That's a big hurt. And then the injuries started piling up. And I'm not just talking about, you had that one to Seth Hennigan where you actually missed the game, your starting quarterback. You're down to your 4th teamer going in against UCF on the road in the bounce house. And you got offensive line injuries, and you got running back Kylan Watkins out for the year. Marquavius Weaver was down for a while. Drake Clark had an ankle. So that's your running attack right there. You lose several offensive linemen who were like a couple were no longer on the team. They were seniors. They were done. They were injured, and that's that. And it piled up on them. Memphis had been, and then not to mention the kicking game. This has been kicker you there for a while, but the guy that you bring in who was like a freshman All-American gets hurt and he can't kick a field goal, and you bring your punter in to try to kick field goals. How good is that going to work in any situation? So it's just been one of those years where everything spiraled down, and and people want to blame the coach. Well, how come you don't have anybody else? Well, there's a reason why people start and a reason why people come in off the bench. And when your starters go down with injury, that just limits what you could do in a transition year.
Let me throw out this number because I think it's the most critical number of the year. And certainly this is not Ryan Silverfield's fault. No, that's the other number I'll give you. Well, so one number is 40, the other is 30. 40 injuries. 40 players missed games because of injury this year.
That's missed games, not just miss a few plays. That's missed games.
Correct. 40 guys.
That's a lot.
And you only got 110 on your football team, and only 85 of those are scholarships. So that would tell you something that is incredibly important. And the other is 30, and that's the amount of freshmen that he's been forced to play, partially because of the number 40. But when you're playing that many young people, and that should pay dividends down the road, but this year it's tough. If we go to a bowl, it is 8 years in a row of going to a bowl, and you could still win 7 games if you win the bowl game. Honestly, Jarvo, I think, as you put it earlier, transition year. I think that makes this a decent transition year.
Well, if you look at it, they've been in every single game they played, other than the Houston game, which got out of hand in the very last couple of minutes. because they were still driving with a chance to,
Right.
make
Yeah, it was a
one-score
one-possession game midway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Houston's really good, as we all know. They even got, for a while there, they got votes in the CFP, and they're ranked, 7th? They're ranked in the AP and the coaches poll. So that's a good team you play. They've only lost one game all year. You're playing them down there, and you give it everything you got, but Houston's just a better team than Memphis.
But
so you take that L,
Tulane will be a different story, that is for sure. As always, my friend, I wish you and your always growing family the best of Thanksgivings, and I'll see you at the Liberty Bowl Saturday night.
We're going to grow. I hope we've grown about as much as we're going to grow. Mom and Grandma, Grandpa. Well, I can't say Grandma. I didn't say that on the air. Gigi and Grandpa we're going to tap out here as far as what we can do. But no, it's really great, and we're looking forward to spending Thanksgiving with the kids. And we'll see you on Saturday, Dave.
You got it.
Okay,
have
fun tonight. Go get it done.
I will.
Okay.
I will. Thank you much. We appreciate it. And we will not be here tomorrow, but we will be here this coming Friday morning. So join us then again. It'll be the last show with Glenn Rogers for the year. And, of course, Andy Schiffman will talk all about the Grizz and the NBA. So we got to thank Brett Norsworthy. I hope he has the greatest of Thanksgivings. And, he said he's going Egg Bowl, Iron Bowl, so it'll be great for him. And then we got to thank Jarvis. That'll do it for us. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great Thanksgiving.
I want to do some bragging rights. Hey, I was just the other day overhearing a conversation with Big Mike, the manager of DeSoto Auto Sales. They've got people buying cars all over the country. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas.